This is Jilliana Ranicar-Breese, and this is part 3 of my conversation with Charlie Devus.
Hello.
Go ahead. Hi, for the 3rd time. Go ahead, Charlie. Tell me, what are you going to talk about this time?
Well, I think to concentrate on Athos.
Oh, yes, on Athos. Yes, yes.
Well, afterwards, after Xeropotamau, I took a little boat.
Sounds like a hippopotamus, doesn't it?
It does, rather.
Yeah.
I went to a monastery called Simon Petra, which is, if you can imagine, a monastery in Lhasa, a large sort of, well, I can find a picture of it in there, but maybe I'm not quite sure I've got the time, but perhaps at the end. Okay. It's a large, tall monastery which you have to climb up to the.
Yeah, see if you can find it as you're talking.
Yes, it's like a tower block of a monastery perched on the top of a cliff. And when I got there, there was no room there, unfortunately. But the French monk, he talked to me about the difference between. Oh, there it is.
Oh, wow. And what's it called?
Simon Petra.
Simon Petra. Okay.
And I remember he gave me a lecture on the difference between Renaissance and Greek art and El Greco. And but I had to leave there, and I stayed at a little place called Gregorio and Dionysu. There's a little monk there who's determined.
Also on Mount Athos.
Oh, this is all Mount Athos.
Any pictures in the book of
yes.
that?
There was a little monk there who was determined that I should become a monk instead.
He was going to forgive all your sins. It looks very similar.
Oh, they're all quite similar.
Yeah. Which one's that?
This is Dionysu.
Okay, Diana.
And I can't remember which Gregorio, which is very similar.
Okay.
But I was plagued with this cough, and I went to. I actually stayed, I think, the 2nd day at Great Lavra, which is regarded as the holiest of them all, the most important one, where all the relics are.
What's it called?
Great Lavra. And Magna Lavra, I think.
Okay.
And lo and behold, there were about 20 doctors on a sabbatical to attend me. And then where did I go to? I'm trying to think of where it is. Yes. And then I went to, I remember at Penteleimon. Now, Penteleimon is an enormous, great big Russian monastery. Now, it's built in the 19th century on an older foundation for one purpose only, and that was so the Tsar at the time, I think it was Alexander III, could get a foothold in the Mediterranean. Because these monks were going to be militiamen, and it was going to be a military base. Wow. But by the time I was there were only 11 monks, and the place was in ruins. And if you went, it wasn't in ruins, but there's one part in a ruin. And you could walk around, there were old Tsarist postcards just on the ground, littered up. And there was a photograph, there was a painting outside the refectory of 2 very recognisable class of Russian battleship from the 1890s, towing barge loads of monks past the monastery. So, and usually they've been very friendly. There was just me and 2 Greek monks, and this enormous barracks. But this fierce Russian monk made us all stay in the same room, in the same cell. And then he said, he locked all the toilets up except one, and he said, "All right, you come and pray."
I thought you didn't say, "No, you come and pee."
No. So we looked at each other and thought, oh God.
He was a control freak.
Very much so. And as we were walking up to the main church, and this monk, who I always thought looked like a Zen master, this old Russian monk, he sort of waved the Greeks on. So, you.
He spoke English?
Yes. You English or American? I said, yes, I'm from Britain. Which town? I said, I was living in Cardiff. Yes, I lived in Manchester. And he just throws it down. punches the out. Manchester City!
Oh.
And he goes bombing off down, laughing his head off.
He like,
Yeah.
yeah, I get the same, Liverpool, and then they talk about the football team.
Yes. And I wound up in this church, and I didn't realise you could wander off. I was there for about an hour, and I didn't realise you could actually happily wander off if you like. But so I did. And then
They didn't ask you to do any manual labour, helping in the fields or collecting fruit or
nothing.
nothing. So what did you do all day?
I wrote and I read. I read some.
Do you think today they'd have Wi-Fi?
No, they didn't have anything.
No, not then. But I wonder if now.
Oh, they probably do now. They probably got it all now. But in those, I mean, there was oil lamps. Most of them. And it was total blackness, and it was the Middle Ages. And I can't remember the order I went to. I remember I went to one. There was a graffiti of medieval galleys scratched into the wall, and then I went to St. Paul, which is under the Holy Mountain, and I walked down to the beach. And there were two Greeks coming up there, and I had this beach to myself. And as I'm on the beach, there's something, a tumult in the water, and there are fish jumping out of the water and a dorsal fin following them. And I had the overwhelming urge to go in the water, and I did. And I could have been a great white for all I know. They do get great whites in that part of the Mediterranean. I came out, and I looked out. There was a bay with a very narrow entrance, and there was a school of 11 dolphins. And they're balancing on their noses. And you could feel their energy, you could feel it.
Amazing.
And I think they were playing, but they were also herding the fish into the...
Bit like an orchestra.
Yes. And then, what else was it? Hold on, I've written a little note there. What was the other one? Oh, the doctors, the French monk. Oh, yes, well, there's a number of adventures, but finally I had a sense that it was time to go. So I went to a monastery called Dochario, which is the next one on the way back to Oranapolis, and they didn't want to let me in. They were very stern.
But it wasn't Mount Athos.
This is Mount Athos.
Oh,
this is all Mount Athos.
Oh, okay.
All these monasteries are in Mount Athos.
They didn't like the look of you.
No, and I had quite long hair, and I felt pretty at the time.
Yeah.
But I thought, no, I'm all right, I'm fine. So they all right, we'll let you in. So I was in the refectory, and there's this very stern-looking John Baptist-like monk glaring at me. So in my naivete, because everyone has been so friendly, I sort of smiled at him.
Oh, and you thought it was a come on.
Well, my little cell is a wooden building tacked onto the medieval tower in the middle, and it's so old that it is peeling away. And there is a balustrade which is literally rotting. It's polished. And I'm in there, and an unfortunate occurrence, an unfortunate misunderstanding was about to occur.
He thought that you'd invited him to your...
Well, he did. He turned up once, and he actually kissed me on the forehead, and then he turned up, tried to get into bed. Which I did tell him this was not on the...
Not kosher.
Not on. So he was a bit worried afterwards in case but I thought, no, this is not... I told him to go away and pray.
Yeah,
which I think he did.
Yeah.
But,
so it was time to go.
Time to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Charlie. And we'll continue talking.
Yes, very welcome.
Okay, bye-bye.
Goodbye.